Hi everyone, it's Adrian Leah. This is the reading of Scorpio. If you're a Scorpio, welcome. If you're another sign or you have Scorpio in other parts of your chart, welcome. I did skip over Scorpio and went into Sagittarius, but after I did the reading for Sagittarius, or the story of the bear reading, I did get a word, Motanka, and it does have specific connotations to me, and I felt that it would be perfectly fitting for the reading for Scorpio. Sorry, I said it like 5 times. But um to go into it, and just to say that I'm going to do some channeled messages and then go into the tarot reading, but the whole video is the reading. So with Motanka, I did have a main conversation about it, as well as conversations that kind of flowed into each other within that night. But then later that night, I did hear a whisper of my name, and I grazed over it a bit because of the other flowing parts of the conversation that transpired. But I did have a vision of a vintage vision of an older woman in front of a school building. And to go more into Motanka, um, it was also a secret password in a way. It's not so secret anymore since I mentioned it, but it's as if you ask somebody what's the secret password, and then you say what yours is, or what it is for um, you and the other person. So I I felt that that is interesting. Secrecy, unveiling, discovering the truth, things that the sign of Scorpio really holds dear, of finding the answers. And as we know, when we find answers, there are follow-up questions. Um, Autonomous thinking, asking the right questions, which is particularly important when you're pressed on time, when you're in an environment or situation and you are perceiving or looking at what to do, or the environment, and seeing and thinking and asking yourself what to do. And it just goes into the life and death and heavy change that Scorpio is linked to, how we're able to mold and adapt and change and do these things that will be beneficial to us in a healthy way as much as we can. So, with the Motanka also being something that is of a faceless doll, and one of the things that you may do with it is keep it in a house, and then your spirits of various ancestors can flow in and out. And the concept of it being faceless is that it's not being held there. Just like Scorpio isn't one to be held in one spot. It's almost as if it's in constant motion, as if it expects or it knows that it needs to change. Almost like a snake too. A snake sheds its skin, but it's still a snake. So also like a cryptex of having so many possibilities and being able to uncover that password, especially if you don't know the password. A lot of us, even as we get older, a lot of us still have the same passwords and it might just change up a little bit. Like if you're online and your password, like since you're 12, is like Dolphin 44. But now you need to add like a special symbol to it. So now your password is Dolphin 44 with an explanation point. I feel that there's just such a primal state that we as humans remain in and that we think about that is almost our comfort zone, but it's also our source of self. It's where our soul concaves in because there are certain things that are important that is evident to our soul and maybe the mission that we have here in a way where say your soul just knows how to do good and of course life goes on and stuff happens but it's almost as if um it's in your DNA. It's what you're called to do. It's what makes your soul yours. um an embodiment. And just an example, one time I was driving in a car, and this is years ago. I was in the passenger, or I was driving, and then someone was in the passenger seat, and um, this other car drives past us and flips us off. And I was like, whatever. And then the other person was like, keen on being like, you need to catch up to them. And so I was like, all right. So I catch up to them. And there was a bit of an accomplishment knowing that I did catch up. But at the same time, I was like, this is not what I don't need to do this. It wasn't of importance to me. As soon as I caught up to them, I got pulled over and I didn't get a ticket. I feel like many times I just um floated away with a warning, but it just didn't feel like it needed to be within me to do that. And I feel that um even when life puts you in times where maybe it's a little different than what you would have perceived or what situation or time frame that you're in to remember because your soul will remember and I feel like it really brings you back to source. So another thing is that I was getting images of fairies because yesterday, specifically from the Celtic Spirit Oracle, so I definitely brought this one out because yesterday was the eclipse and I was in a way taking a little chill day. I did doze off for a little bit, but I was in and out of sleep getting images from this deck. So this is going to be one where I pull some cards out. Of course, I have the Slavic Legends Tarot. I have my deck, the Earth Fairy Tarot, the Dreams of Gaia, and I call this my lighthearted one, the Mystic Fairy Tarot. As I say that, and the Eight of Swords is at the bottom, so I'm going to keep that for the reading. There are other things that I'll go over too, and I'll go over them um, in a steady pace. So, another thing is that I was getting a vision. It was like a father that had a specific mission linked to the daughter, because it's as if the daughter had a request or a prayer in a way where she went to her father and she's like, can you do this for me? And then the father's like, of course I can, baby. And the vision is, it's almost as if it was like in a different plane, a different realm, but it was like a hallway. And then the father was going to different doors to find the specific person who could help fulfill that request. This could also be linked to people who, like the daughter could be reaching out to maybe a deceased loved one too. And so this father finally, finds this person, and then he's like, explains the situation, and he's like, can you do this for my daughter? And then the person's like, okay. And I would say, how's that really going? And then in a way, the other person that like got the request is like, well, this person doesn't wasn't expecting it from that person, as if maybe they were expecting it to be answered in another way. And this person seemed to be really confused, even angry at first. But I feel over time significantly less angry. This daughter, I feel, comes as if she is older, and that's why I was saying with how she may have connected, but it could also be with mentality too. But has been coming up in multiple visions, sometimes dreams, and taller than me, not too much taller. Um, Pale, lighter hair, specifically hair that is pulled back. Stern at first, but calmer now. I would like to say that the last time I saw the vision or in the dream, um, there was a specific expression. It was as if she needed help, but she didn't know how to ask, or she didn't know what to ask. I feel like that goes with the Eight of Swords too. What type of approach So, also reminding me, mm, there's this Ukrainian family that lives above me, and very quiet to themselves, but do enjoy talking amongst themselves too. And it does remind me of almost like the blank expression that the mother has too. Um, kind though. So that was another thing. The main numbers that I'll be putting in below in the description box below, sorry, I said that weird, is 44 and 66. Those are the main ones. And then now we're going to get into the reading, and this is going to be an introduction to the reading, I suppose, because I did get a kind of like a historical reminder, the sad part of American history, and it's with the Native Americans. And when they were displaced off of their lands, because it started at first when the Europeans, or when the outsiders came into the states, and they did share their resources at first, but over time it was one where they kept taking from the Native Americans to a point where they were getting pushed more and more off their land. And of course, it happened little at a time, but then it was as if they're not getting the hint. Like the Native Americans, like they're not getting the hint. We want all of the lands, but we're not going to tell them. So what we're going to do is, we're going to passively drop hints that have dramatic effects or intense effects, I would say. Um, say we're going to give them blankets, but we're not going to tell them that these blankets have disease on them, disease that they're not immune to. And it'll be a gift. So more events occurred, and then, there's the Trail of Tears, leaving the Native Americans to go to lands that are almost inhabitable, like the deserts, or places where it's like the frigid cold. So I would remember, and again, to perceive those situations, especially if you like to give and you're surrounded by people or a person that likes to take, because the people that like to take, they don't have limits. They're going to keep taking from you. So I'm going to start pulling cards out. And this phrase comes up frequently for me. Like, she doesn't know, does she? It's a fairy that's entangled. Sorry, this is gonna be one of those long readings, but I don't I haven't posted a reading that was like short, so I don't know why I'm saying that. So one of the main cards and um that flips is the Six of Cups from my deck. As I lay my cards on the keyboard. Um, and it's me with the Morgan or goddess, and she is showing me a sunflower. And the Six of Cups is linked to the past. And an interesting thing that I got another vision the other day, a couple of times, it was the same recurring one. And it was like the spirit saving me from going out the window because one of the things that happened in my old house that I grew up in, it was haunted. I'm not going to go too much into it. Um, but one of the things was that like the spirit was telling me, you know, if you go out the window, you're going to be able to fly. And it was like this, the fatherly figure. It was interesting because I don't think that they're necessarily in the same time gap, but then there's such a timelessness to it too with why things have happened. But it was like the fatherly figure pulling me from the window. And it's almost as if there was like premonition or something preconceived or something being called or meant to do. Um, and of course, I put a sunflower there because I love sunflowers. Um, but just things linking together. And also, when I was around 18 and I went to a psychic and she's like, you should have been dead a long time ago. I'm like, yeah, I know. Um, for different things too. Because I was also, well, I died and then I came back to life when I was little too. So there's also that. But there is like, it feels linked to destiny in a way, or it links to source of self or your soul. I would say as much as soul contracts too, or things that you're meant to do in this lifetime. And as I say with the Eight of Swords, because it's like she doesn't know, does she? And then I was clarifying it, and then I got another Six of Cups from this deck. So these two came out. And again, you can take it how it connects to you in your life. The other cards that were coming up that flipped over before the other cards that are face down. Reverse Three of Swords is at the bottom of the deck with the upright King of Wands. This could be linking to another person um, who you might be reconciling with in terms of, because with the swords, I know it's dubbed the heartbreak card, and I don't usually like to just go off the automatic traditional meaning because there's so many different ways that these cards are depicted. And so it's almost as if it's an umbrella term. And there is so much more to it. So you see that this card has two black swans, and then it has the leaves and they're dead. It when it's reversed, because the swords are going right into the birds. There's almost like a replenishment, because it's also in the sky too. It's like the dark clouds, and then it goes into the lighter clouds as if the storm is clearing up, specifically for the King of Wands. Because another thing that I was getting right before the reading was it was almost like a sanctuary too, because it kind of felt like a safe haven. But then the figure, it was like they had blankets, but they were sleeping like on, not in their bed. It was like maybe on the floor or something. It just seemed like um a safe place for them. And it feels like the words that I'm getting is like I'm taking back what's mine. It's almost as if the King of Wands is going back into his or her power, as if they were awakened from their slumber in a way, or they had to get up for a specific mission or like a duty, something to where it gave them a boost of life again. Because with the King of Wands, if we're going with age, it doesn't necessarily have to do with age, but there is a sense of fatigue that comes out of the King of Wands sometimes, because he's done different things in life to put him in that position. But now something is beckoning, something is calling him back to do it. A part of him, I feel like, doesn't want to do it, but a part of him knows that it's necessary for him to do it. Because another card that I turned over is the Four of Cups. And I guarantee you, with the Four of Cups, with the cup that is offered, it's going to be so much more fulfilling, so much more replenishing, healing than what the other cups had. The other cups were kind of like, so this fish is coming out of the well with the main cup that he's supposed to get. But then the other cups, maybe he feels sick because my stomach felt like it wasn't that well before the reading, as if maybe, honestly, it kind of felt like maybe someone wasn't really taking care of themselves, or for some reason or another there was like not feeling well. Maybe you weren't eating, or whoever wasn't eating, um not eating enough, or not feeling themselves. So with the Four of Cups, those the water that's in the other cups, they're from maybe a puddle, or a a dirty source of that's not, like, not clean water. Like, there's something about those other cups that just won't heal. Like water is supposed to help rejuvenate you. It's supposed to quench your thirst. Um, he keeps going for these other cups because they seem like the most practical or they seem the most resourceful. They seem like the easiest way out. But just because they're the easiest way to get does not mean that they're the best ways or the best outcomes for him. I feel like he's starting to realize that because it's the King of Wands is showing up. And also seeing things for what they are. Because I just thought of my hagstone, and then they say if you look through the stone, through the hole, that you can see things for what they really are. Specifically, more for me with fairies. So, another repeat card. So, the future is another Eight of Swords, linking to the Six of Cups. I feel like it really, like the King of Swords, and it could be male or female, whatever it relates to you. And because because the other words that I've been getting too, specifically with one other deck, it's like go to him, save him, lead them. Um, those things, I feel there's such a calling that there's no way that you could just sit back and relax and watch something like this happen, especially when you know that, like, like you don't even have to look deep down. You could just like see that, man, this is like a really fucked up situation. I'm not gonna just be the bystander. I gotta actually do something about it. Kind of reminds me of like one of the songs. And I listen to all sorts of music. Um, One of the songs is like "Raising Hell" by Kesha, and it basically um like I don't want to go to heaven without raising hell, basically. Like mama raised me well, but I don't want to go to heaven without raising hell. And it's like if you couldn't tell, we're able to find the trouble, like we don't need any help trying to find it. So I feel like it's definitely like a lighthearted perspective too, but it's also one where um it's one where like you know that honestly like you're a good person, you're a good kid, and then you just live your life. Yeah, it does look like there are people that need water or something to really soothe them because in the obstacle, it's like people trying to move forward and to take their wins, but it's the Six of Wands, and there's still more things that need to be done. It's not the end of a cycle because the cycle's 1 through 10 in the minor arcana. And I'm not going to take that away from anyone. Like, a win is a win, and good for you if you have it. Um, but it just looks like people are like they're tired because you have the Nine of Wands. And I'm getting like the word like make it count because there's not a lot of resources. I feel like I'm getting like there's not a lot of ammo. There's not a lot of stuff. There's not a lot of energy. So make it count. And then there's the Seven of Coins too. With the sunflowers. And it's gonna take a lot to grow those plants. It's gonna take a lot of time and effort to do these things. But every time you have like the Six of Wands, every time that you have a win, like just celebrate that win. Even if it's like the small victory, like a win is a win, at least in my book. It's funny because the other day, there was like a scammer that like was calling me. And it's so crazy these days because they have like the literal names of like the places that they're trying to impersonate. Like this was like it had the name of like the bank of it, like kind of they had bank like cut off. So I was like thinking like maybe it just got cut off like in the caller ID, but it didn't. And then they're like, someone tried to wire transfer money from your account. And I'm like, oh my God, really? Where did they get that money from? Because I want some of it. I didn't see it in my account. And then because it takes like certain amount of money to actually transfer it, and then money obviously to transfer the money, um, you can't like overdraft that stuff. And so they were like peeved and they're just like, do you have like a savings account with that with us? I'm just like thinking like you should know. You're the one who's calling me, but I'm like, no. And then they just hung up on me. And so I'm just like, okay, well, I guess the scammers don't want to scam me. Um, and so how to overcome the obstacle is the Page of Coins. And with this, there's just such an exciting energy. Like it's like you're going to school, like your first day of school, and even before your first day of school, like at least for me, when I went to back to school shopping, and my parents are just like, you don't need to get any more pencils. You have pencils from last year. I'm just like, but these are the pretty ones. And I used to get like the Lisa Frank ones that had like the big erasers and like the folders. And it was so girly and like magical. That was like my time to shine. I was like, I just want the best stationery. I want the best pencils. And it was so fun. Then you go back to school and it's like you're excited. Um, I think especially when you're younger, like maybe sometimes you're not excited, but it reminds me of the Page of Coins because the Page of Coins is one that I feel like is excited to learn these new things, and it almost like the other word that's coming up to me is like troubleshooting too, and that with the Eight of Cups. Because the Eight of Cups, it's like if one method doesn't work as well as you thought it was going to, it's okay if you just try something else, or it's okay if like maybe you incorporate a little bit of this in there. Or like even when you're composing something or you're drafting something, if you want to add a little pizzazz to it, or maybe trying different methods that work for you. Like if you're reading a book but you're getting fatigued like when you read a book because your mind is just traveling in other places. Try maybe like Audible or listening to music or going in a different setting and trying to like awaken your senses again. There's something about that too. One of my favorite supplements, absolutely nobody asks for this, but I love supplements because I don't know, I get a lot of them for I mean we get a lot of samples. So one of them that I love is the Calm magnesium supplements. And they're the gummies. I love the raspberry lemon ones. And it just helps with my cognition so much. And I guess it can mellow you down too, but I'm like, I feel like I feel like I'm pretty mellow, like, except like the times where I'm not, but um, generally I'm okay with being chilled out. And also helping me feel more awake, you know, if you have certain deficiencies to maybe take that into account too, and maybe that's the fatigue or the stomach upset that I was getting. I feel, especially as you get older too, probiotics are like the way to go. And I'm not trying to like sell you on anything, but it just makes that like um digestive process so much easier in different ways. So those are my little suggestions. Maybe if you eat more than what you would like, I know they're coming out with expensive prescribed medication, but I mean, I feel like the type of regime that you have with knowing when and like what to eat and when to stop eating certain things. I'm not saying to completely stop eating things. I've said this before, like when your body wants you like it's getting full, it's basically telling you to stop because it's not going to be able to metabolize the food as quickly as you're eating it, even with exercise or even with other forms of activity that you're doing. So and an OTC supplement that you could get maybe is like Relora by Pure Encapsulations, and Pure Encapsulations is a great brand because it's hypoallergenic in case people are not used to taking supplements and they have minimal ingredients. You look in the ingredients and they'll have the active ingredient or ingredients if it's like a blend of something with herbs, like a proprietary blend. And then you see in like the inactive ingredients and it has like the base or the vehicle for the medication, um, and also looking more into depth of that. So say you would like to take a progesterone medication and you happen to want it to be compounded, but you want it to have lasting effects. You want it to be an extended release because you don't want it to immediately release the ingredient and then it won't last as long as you're wanting it to last throughout the day or the duration or time you're taking it. So, my base, besides the capsule, because it's carrying what it needs, I'm gonna put microcrystalline in it because that's a standard base. And to slow down the ingredient when it's going into your body, because again it's like a vehicle, like the heavier vehicles like a truck. It's slower than other types of vehicles. um i'm gonna put I'm gonna put methocel in it. When you hold the container of methocel, you're gonna notice that there's a weight to it, and I'm gonna put it with the microcrystalline if that's what the ingredients call for. And on top of that, I'm going to put that active ingredient in. You're not going to put other fillers, and that's um, what pure encapsulation does. And that's what makes it more, for pure encapsulations, more hypoallergenic because you could see the ingredients on what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So basically, you're mixing all these ingredients and putting it into the capsule. And that methocel is going to slow down the effect of of the progesterone because you're slowing down your car. So you're gonna get it at you're gonna get to your destination, if you will, at a slower rate. Um, just find the excitement in things. I feel that it might be necessary because for some you might be bored or unhappy with certain outcomes. But I feel specifically for the Four of Cups and the King of Wands, this part of the process might be necessary for you to get to your happy place, for you to graduate. You're going through this and then you can graduate. Um, the past is the Ten of Coins, oops, which really affects the future, the Eight of Swords. Because there feels, well, since there's a blindfold there, it feels like there's something that deep down you know that you have to do, but you're kind of like closing yourself off from it because obviously what you had before was comfortable with the 10 of Pentacles, the 10 of Coins. And then you have another Cups here too, the Ace of Cups in the past. And with this, it kind of feels like what you thought was healthy, what you thought was replenishing you or rejuvenating you is actually, it actually takes more. It actually makes you um not as healthy as you would want it. Like there's fillers in your medication. So you're not getting the main effects of the active ingredient, or um it's just not as potent, or there are some things that is, it kind of feels like there's too much in the surroundings and not much of the focus of what's really important. Because you're looking for the ace, and the ace is one. Oh my god. I'm trying not to press the keyboard. Yeah, and then with the Seven of Cups too, you had like all these different twists and turns just to avoid the hard part. But then in reality, it's like, well, if you took it originally, you wouldn't have wasted all this time. And sometimes it's necessary to have this time wasted, that it's not time wasted. Um, and it gets you to the Ten of Cups. Because I feel like that was something that you were really looking for. Sure, you had the Ten of Pentacles. Um, but there was just like a certain aspect that you were looking for, a specific person, a specific place, um, the specific desire that puts you, um, it makes you see why the other ways weren't working. And I do feel like if you ask the right questions, um, and you go to the right places and really have a feel for things instead of blocking certain areas, because although there's different suits, there's different elements. There's the minor and major arcana in the deck. It makes a full deck. So to get the benefits of the stinging nettle, you might have to go through a little discomfort. And it can also help with digestion too. And to remember, weeds are one of the most amazing plants that you can encounter. They're resilient for a reason. So you have the Seven of Wands. It's almost like a game of hide and seek or something that you're just not seeing, and that's why it's not moving forward. And with the birds at the top, it's like you need to like listen. Pulled from this deck. The Dreams of Gaia Tarot. And I feel like at this time, it's like, what are you not seeing may not be the question that, like, what are you not doing? It looks like somebody's black and white in a situation. It's either going to happen this way, in this specific way, with this specific person, on this specific path, at this specific time, or it's not going to happen at all. And the world is just like, well, I mean, if that's what you want, I don't know. Then you have the Two of Swords, the Three of Wands. It's like you're waiting for this, and you're like, or this other person, depending on who you are, um, why isn't it coming? That's what she said. And then you have the Nine of Swords too, and that's like messages coming in, like that. Those are your downloads. That's like what you feel. That's like the spark because you see the fire and you see like the third eye, and um, it looks celestial in a way too. That there's more to it. There's a bigger picture. Like, what's the bigger picture? And then it's the Three of Cups. It feels like, what are you really looking for in this connection? Because it does feel like there's a connection that is trying to be like connected. For some, there might have been arguments or things that have happened in the past that you or another person may struggle to get past. And it doesn't have to be with that specific person or situation. It could have been from maybe trauma from past people and situations. You have the Five of Cups. And it does feel a little bit of like a past card because this one is not, it's not moving forward because she's like hell bent on, man, this person did me dirty. Yeah, that's true, but they have to live with that. You don't have to live with that. You could just like move forward with it. If you're trying to make peace with a person, if you're trying to come in contact or to be with this person, that you may have gotten into um, some upsetting situation with, you can't move forward if you're moving backward in that way. And of course, like it could be a little dance sometimes. But like with a dog has four legs, but it can only move one direction. And you're, it's like, it kind of feels like the heart and the mind, like the soul, like there are certain parts of you that just aren't on the same page. And it's with the Four of Cups too, because then you have the Star card too. And the Star card is like, it sees potential. It's almost like in the beginning where the father was looking to get that thing or the help or the request that his daughter asked for, and he got it. And then this person's like, I asked for it, but I didn't ask for this person to give this to me. And the father's like, this this could work. You know that, right? Then you have the Knight of Pentacles. It seems a little immobile right now. Then with the Fool, I say he seems immobile, but it's almost as if the Knight of Pentacles is like going in circles with the Fool card. Same journey, same situation, same type of person, different day. What did the past teach you? What did history teach you? Because you don't have control over somebody else's actions. You have control over your own actions. And you don't want to be on a trail of tears. You don't want to be displaced. And it doesn't have to be as severe as that. But there are important things that we see, that we read about, that we can learn from, that we also embrace that this is what happens. How can we make the world better? And I'm going to pull out a couple more cards in the other deck too. The Celtic Spirit, another Fool card, and then the Five of Pentacles. I feel like with certain paths, because there seems to be a struggle with going upstream, it kind of feels like they're, to get past the Six of Wands too, there is going to be more things that arise that you'll have to get past. At the same time, be willing to accept something that in a way that you've already put into your life, in a on the path that you chose, because we all choose things. I feel like with the King of Wands specifically, the King of Wands just has, he's embodiment of a lion. um I feel like there's just such I don't want to say pedestal, but it feels as if this person specifically wants somebody to choose them every single time. And that's like the Four of Cups. It's like it's almost asking, when is someone going to choose me every time, no matter what? And there are people like that. But don't waste your energy when you know that maybe it's just like sometimes you just know that it's like, but sometimes you know that this person is like, this person is in my life for a reason. And sometimes like you think like if you're lucky to or fortunate and in that position where you're like, this person is my for lifer. Like we're for lifers. That's what I feel like the King of Wands is like. And I feel that maybe the King of Wands is trying to open his heart up again. There's something that awakens him to let him feel um like he can do that again. Like something is worth putting the effort in. And to be careful where you put your effort in because sometimes these cycles are they're long cycles. Like again with the Fool card too. Like if you're going on this path of struggle, like sometimes you need to do that, but there's also times where it's like you could have done something else. Like you know you could have done something else. There's it just feels like something that makes him or her feel alive again, something that makes him feel that like almost kingly again. And it can be protective too because it could be like a king and their kingdom or like a king and queen or person. Uh, so the cards that I got is the Master of the Hunt. The Master of the Hunt, speed, masculinity, flow. I feel like once the person in the Four of Cups realizes that that cup is like the bomb.com, it's like he's going to be gunning for it or she's going to be gunning for it. And then to see the strength and potential of things that might be seen as the underdog too. Because you also have the herbalist, herbs, medicine, healing. Because the herbalist has dandelion, my favorite plant. I actually have um, a book on dandelions specifically. So it's just such a giving plant. And there's just such a force and power with it. I really feel like it goes well with the the King of Wands too, to not underestimate. So I'll pull out one more card. And the cards are just talking today. Yeah, I'll pull out another card. Because, okay. This one. So there was actually a lot of cards, but I'll quickly go through them. Because it's not a bad card, but the card that I pulled is the Devil card, and then the Ace of Swords. To not let things hold you back. And these could be big things because it could be honestly serious patterns or things that constantly go through your mind that make you stop, like not approach things because you feel that there's potential that what if this happens or that happens. Um, but in the end, a lot of times it turns into like coulda, woulda, shoulda. Like I could have done this, should have done this, would have done this. Just to remember that if you hold back and then the opportunity slips by, of course, life moves forward, but to remember that if you want to go for something that you want or who you want. And then you have the Justice and the Ten of Swords. Because it really feels like it tries, this feels like energy that tries to end and something that in a way is karmic. Like when is my time for my for lifer to come into my life? And it's like, well, when you change this part of your life because you can't keep doing the same thing. Then you have the Ten of Swords. And then the Six of Swords. This feels like it's a lot of um, things to work through mentally to try to calm your mind, to not try to have that fight or flight mode when a person comes along, when a person that you like and they're like, this person is just too nice to me. Like they're just like, I feel like they're my person. I'm just like it's just I don't know, it's too not what it was before. And then the universe is like, yeah, we're trying to give this person to you, but you keep like pushing them away. So I don't know what you want us to do at this point. Like it's up to you. And then quickly, because I'm making my readings longer and longer. Because I feel like this is messages in of listening to see who you're listening to because there are multiple court cards that come out. And to remember what form they take. Because again, there's a couple of Christian people that watch me now. And it's like how the devil comes to you, how your God source comes to you. And a lot of the biblical references, especially to how he comes to you. Um, a lot of it's like, do not be afraid because I'm going to come in some form that you're probably going to be like, oh my God, like, what is that? Just to remind you. Because you have the Queen of Cups, Queen of Swords, the Lover's card, the Sun card, the King of Pentacles, the Nine of Cups. One of them could have been a past person too, because oh, there's a double card again. Because remember in the beginning, like taking and taking and taking. And with the King of Pentacles that shows up because there's a couple of different cards. It's like with the King of Pentacles, this person is going to make decisions that are more responsible in a way. Because this decision doesn't just affect you, it affects like other people. So how are you going to make it work? There feels like there might be some bitterness too, because with the Queen of Cups it feels more maybe intuitive or maybe like more of a knowing. Queen of Swords is practicality too. So I feel like those could go hand in hand. It's different forms of perceiving things. Nine of Cups. That feels destined too. And there just feels like a shine or a glow that comes from the Sun card. That there's something that just radiates, like once you make the decision that you know is right for you. I feel like there's an Empress that comes in too, because I also just pulled the Queen of Wands. So the only one that I didn't pull is the Queen of Pentacles, which kind of makes sense because the Ten of Pentacles, the Ten of Coins was in the past. Not that that's a court card. But at this point, with the King of Pentacles, of course, it's a responsibility. Um, but it's also maybe finding his or her match. And it could be the opposite because the Queen of Pentacles doesn't show up on this. And I say the Empress too because, I mean, she's the embodiment of all the queens. So maybe all together, it's like you guys form a whole of each other. So I'll end it there because I'll just keep pulling out more cards. But also remember how your decisions affect yourself because again, you have to live with it at the end of the day. So thank you guys so much for watching and I'll see you in another video. Bye.